What if Rome never fell? This has been the fodder of many alternate historians. It has already been asked and answered on two other channels already that I know of, and probably other ones that I haven't seen as well. However, I will attempt to answer this question as well today. You'll find out what would happen if one of the world's most powerful empires never fell. At first glance, when we look at the empire in its last days, one must ask, how did it hold on for so long? To examine how Rome could have potentially survived its collapse, you must examine what the main reasons for the collapse were. And don't worry, I know that the Eastern Roman Empire lasted for another 1,000 years, until shortly before the voyage of Columbus. The empire that I'm talking about is the Western Roman Empire. So, what were the reasons for the collapse of the Western Roman Empire? Well, there was a bunch of them, but for the sake of time, I will try to explain each one in a brief manner. One of the main problems was the invasion by barbarian hordes. Although the Romans had fended off the so-called barbarians for many years, by the last years of the empire, the groups had encroached onto the borders. Thus, the city of Rome was almost constantly subject to attack, until finally in 476, the last Roman ruler was disposed. Another reason was because of economic troubles. The Roman Empire was based on war and conquest, and when the army grew weak, that conquest stopped. So, economic trouble set in, and a fresh supply of conquered slave labor turned to a stop as well. Another problem was the widening gulf between the Western and Eastern empires. The Eastern Empire was probably the most powerful by the end of the Western Empire, and since they didn't bother to cooperate with their brethren, the western part was left vulnerable. Political instability and troubles with the army didn't help too much. Christianity was also a reason for the new weakness of the Roman Empire, since it undermined the traditional Roman religion. However, it wasn't one of the main issues with Rome. The main reasons for the collapse of Rome were economic, military, and administrative factors. So if Rome could have somehow combated those threats, it would have survived. However, I must emphasize that the Western Roman Empire was in decline for many centuries before its fall. It is not as if the fall occurred on a night or anything. The peak size of the empire was reached at around 117 AD. That means that for over 300 years, the empire didn't expand, and in fact was steadily declining. In the final days of the empire, the capital city of Rome was at the mercy of barbarian invaders, and over 20 emperors were put in power in the span of less than a century. So there is not a single event or figure that could have saved Rome. It was simply too large to be a stable empire during its time. The political rot was very evident in the empire. This means that basically the entire empire would have to be rehauled in order for this scenario to take place, which is very unlikely. Let's say instead that a bunch of great emperors such as Trajan took over, instead of the downright harmful emperors such as Caligula. If the political system were to become more stable, with the better emperors at the helm, potentially the corruption could be held at bay. Also, Rome would have to find another economic system other than conquest. This would simply not be a viable option. For example, when the empire grew too large, the resources in maintaining the empire were spread too thin, and they had to be broken apart. Therefore, instead of relying on conquest to spread the empire, a much more reliable option would be to base itself on trade. Secondly, the Romans would have to maintain their army, which if not used for conquest, would have to be at least be used for defending the border. Also, I propose that a union between East and West, along with perhaps still adopting Christianity, would probably be the best way for Rome to survive. This is because without the East, the West would likely grow weak as it did in our time, since the East has the access to trade. Also, on the topic of Christianity, it kind of undermined traditional Roman values and lowered morale among the population. However, it must also be said that even though Roman emperors ruthlessly executed Christians, they still grew with the population. So I think the eventual adoption of Christianity will result simply because of its growing power and the otherwise force necessary to exterminate it. Although not one of the main causes of the fall of Rome, if we let Christianity remain a small sect as it would have been in the Roman Empire Constantine had not adopted it, Rome would be more fragmented between paganism and Christianity. So, with all of those factors taken care of, could Rome still survive? Potentially, but we don't know since we are so far removed from the original timeline. This is solely the first part on a series of videos about the fall of Rome. Today we examined how Rome fell, potentially what could have staved off such an event. However unlikely an event is, we must ask ourselves as alternate historians, what our world would look like if Rome still existed. Thanks for watching and make sure you catch the next part of the series when they come out. And make sure to subscribe. Thanks.